All right, diving into the metaverse today, we're going to look at some strategies around investment when you look at crypto gaming, NFTs, staking, all those aspects of really understanding the ecosystem of investing in metaverse gaming. We're going to break that down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. Joining me today, of course, is Mirko Dölger, who is the CEO over at Unix Gaming. Great to have you back in.
Hey, Paul. It's a pleasure. Back in
Excellent.
Bali.
You are the world traveler for sure. Last time we had you, you were in Dubai, Binance conference. Lots happening there. I can't wait to hear all about that for sure. But Mirko, let's jump into the first area today, and that is staking. And there's a lot happening, especially in the number of projects that are really bringing on a very enticing staking strategy. That's one, of course, locking up tokens, but it's also creating a lot of interest from both token holders as well as the gamers themselves. I want to break into some of the big ones, which everybody kind of knows, the bigger projects out there. But Axie Infinity now giving us 76%, 74% right there on today on staking rewards. What are your thoughts on how and if this strategy is something that Sky Mavis can continue on to really kind of provide these kind of rewards?
I mean, staking is always a nice utility for a token holder, for participants. Maybe not even directly only into the game, but it gives you kind of rewards on holding your token. And Axie Infinity is really one of the projects with really a high APR on a single coin. And all that comes back from the huge volume on the marketplace. Otherwise
Right.
it wouldn't be sustainable. So, and I'm personally seeing the APR from Axie Infinity pretty stable over the last, I would say, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So it's really, an awesome return there. And definitely, we know that Axie is one of the largest games. So I wouldn't say it's safe, like everybody invest now, but it's definitely a nice bonus on your tokens to place them there, to get your yield on while you're holding the token, while you're playing the game.
We have seen a little bit of adjustment in Axie Infinity's overall players, and obviously when we see stress on the ecosystem, including the breach we saw with the Ronin wallet, it does affect the staking rewards because we see people start to unstake tokens, look at exit points. Obviously, when you see that kind of scenario, we start to see a little bit of movement in the space. And if you look at the chart, like right here, there's a couple of little areas where there is a bump up and then also some small dips. When you look at staking as a strategy, especially in the gaming tokens, whether it's Axie, Sandbox, Illuvium, et cetera, is there anything that you're looking for, or in terms of short-term strategy, or do you feel like, hey, no, staking should be you allocate a certain portion of your portfolio on that particular token to staking, and that's just kind of left in there really to kind of get those big gains? Or do you jump in and out? What's your approach towards staking some of these tokens?
Personally, I mean, now we in Unix Gaming, of course, we have a larger stake there. But as let's say, casual player or user, I would always diversify. It's like if you play the game, take rewards, put them in staking. If you're not, because you never use funds you not have, right? So basically, it's always good to have to use the whole ecosystem of a project, because it supports the project if you really believe, and especially in the game, you participate in the game, you participate in the staking, and also your stake tokens, for example, in Axie Infinity, is participation in the DAO. So there's even an additional utility on that.
All right, so Sandbox actually, probably the best performer out there, but Sandbox doing some different things in terms of staking, but also the amount of rewards that they've been giving back to their community during just some of the recent seasons, and then a lot of these quests that have been recently achieved. We're seeing a lot of activity. We had one of our own Crypto Pit members actually won one of the 1,000 Sand quests. And I see this as a really good strategy to get a lot of game players coming into the ecosystem. Is this something you think that Sandbox can sustain?
And for sure, it's like as you know that the alphas, they have a limited amount of users, so it cannot be populated like a million user going on and then taking the rewards and leaving and maybe dumping to the market. So it's been I think increased or double in size. I think it was like 10 or 20,000 users this time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so there's kind of limited rewards, and you know how much you will give out on a maximum of achievements. And I think Sandbox really approach here in a very good way. So while having the user testing their gameplay and their experiences, and giving them a reward for that, I think this is it's really nice move from Sandbox. And definitely the third alpha and the fourth and then the beta will continue like that, and we will see continuous rewards. I mean, it's a big project with a 4 billion market cap, so I think they can give some fewer rewards to the community.
Yeah, I like that. Give a little bit back. I guess my analysis is when you look at long term, in terms of critical mass, the amount of growth that Sandbox is going to see in terms of number of players, and also I think in general as we start to see whether it's guilds like what you guys are doing at Unix, or you look at just mass adoption into these kinds of projects, that community driver of especially these kind of rewards, which have been very lucrative, I think, for a lot of the players, will be one of the things I think will be a differentiator in really kind of setting these apart. If you look at Illuvium kind of has a similar approach. Obviously, no game yet, but they are doing and starting to offer staking rewards. And now the only difference there with Illuvium is it does have some lockup periods. And I want to kind of jump to that. What are your thoughts on these things to avoid, like long lockup periods, gas fees, reward vesting, etc.? How do you kind of assess whether or not you're going to jump into a staking program based on these additional concerns?
I mean, there's several factors. I mean, of course, it's gives, let's say, more risk to a staking platform if you can tap in and out with your funds
Yeah.
and withdraw your claim or the earned rewards, and you can basically claim them at any time. Lockups usually lower a little bit the risk, for dumps, and of course, staking lives from gas fees and from lockup. So this is definitely a method I would consider. But like Axie Infinity, definitely as a solid project or sandbox, inviting for staking where you can unstake any time. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I think we need to consider a few things. Is it a very game and with an advanced development? Yeah, the roadmap, for example, Axie Infinity game is live. Sandbox is huge. They also don't have a gameplay, but they have so much going on, land sales and so on. And I think Illuvium have the lockups because there is no game yet.
Right.
But yeah, definitely it's I think this is one thing. So looking for a major game, but also on the total value locked. I think this is always a good indicator. If you not familiar with yet with staking, you know the game, but you don't know really what about DeFi. But everything like, let's say, Axie Infinity have 1.4 billion total value. Like that's massive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's so many people staking in, and it's really gives less risk that there's a huge, let's say, impact when you wake up next morning. So yeah, and this is things to look at. Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Binance jumping in to kind of assist on the Sky Mavis team in terms of investment to address a lot of the security issues that we've seen in some of these areas?
Yeah, I mean it's very nice that the Axie Infinity and BC is helping out. I mean it's not like a charity, yeah. So they also have a benefit in that. So
Sure.
it's I would say nothing is free, but it's definitely a very good step in the right direction, because all these funds being from players and or yeah, participate in people in the Axie Infinity ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, it's a large amount. That it's been the biggest breach ever. So yeah, and this, you cannot recover that amount of money just with in a
Yeah.
short period of time. But 150 million collected with few with big players in the game. So this also sends a signal. And I think the Axie Infinity, they have everything figured out. They have the right people and the right team to really not get into bad press by not getting the rewards back and so on. And they have a running ecosystem, so it's the rewards will be claimed back and and distributed back. So yeah, I think it's very good. I like, anyway, they have a strong community, and this is always what counts in crypto, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
well done.
I think that to me just solidifies the whole gaming ecosystem and just the support that the mechanism of what blockchain has been doing, just because the number of companies that are really kind of accelerating not only growth but also stability in the industries, which is one of the things if you're looking at investing, and obviously that's what we're talking about on this show, and the strategies is you've got to have the stability within the marketplace. If you have these kinds of things happening, it definitely kind of leans in on the right direction. Because if you had that happen in small, say small sectors in traditional investment classes, I don't think you'd be getting companies like this running to assist the security mechanisms to help create a better overall system. I think those kind of things would be quite a bit different in traditional assets. Let's jump to NFTs and talk about a couple of, three for sure. One, of course, is Big Time Space. They've got their private beta early May coming up. You've also got Sandbox Land coming in, and then also Ember Stored. I want to start with Big Time in general and your thoughts on NFTs, because there are some aspects to NFTs that either one, have no utility, or they don't have a marketplace to trade them. So how do you assess a risk management, so to speak, on an NFT acquisition when you look at projects like a Big Time? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for us, we looking definitely on especially land, because land is a digital property, and land, especially in cases like Big Time, have even utility. I mean, like, because sometimes people think, okay, it's just land, but on Big Time, you basically need the land to build the time machine to craft items, and with these items, you can farm the token. So while you're playing, you're just earning. So it's like, yeah, the nice gameplay trailer, very good. So and this is like definitely Big Time. They have their own marketplace where you can basically buy these pieces of land, and definitely you need to look for like a game, or especially in game phase. Actually, usually the NFTs, they have always a utility. Either you use it as a weapon, or you have the
Right.
land. So it's pretty yeah, easy to add in a GameFi NFT utility. But there's many projects where the NFT really don't have much utility, and yeah, then of course should be a little bit aware. Maybe check the size of the project, who is behind that, and yeah.
So when we're talking about land here, let's kind of jump to Sandbox for a second, because Sandbox has been very successful in pretty much selling all the offerings that they've had up. We've seen estate sales really accelerate the growth of land sales. Sandbox, I would still think, is number one out there in terms of overall revenue. But at the same time, there has been concerns. I was just looking at the city report not too long ago, and one of the experts talked about land digital metaverse right now, and their concern was that at some point down the road that we could see some of these projects kind of just start to create more of these kinds of offerings, which obviously would dilute property value and the digital land value. So what are the potential of maybe something like that happening in some of these bigger projects as we start to see more and more adoption?
Mm, I think in the case of Sandbox, there will not be additional land. I think they have pieces, but this is like special editions. But you need to have a limit, otherwise, it leads to inflation, and
Yep.
then it will lower the worth of the property of the other landowners. And at the end, you have still the land's also a good what you can trade. So I think you will see, just like in a real life economy, someone own a land, he built a house on it, some other person buy the land, he removed the house and he built a new house. I
Yeah.
think this you're gonna see in the let's say metaverse real estate market, as you do it in real life. So, and I mean, there is definitely, I think, projects, but not, I think, the leading ones, where it's maybe the case that, oh, there is another land drop. And of course, this wouldn't, I think, satisfy the community. And as we all know, we live from community. So I'm pretty sure Sandbox is doing everything right.
Yeah. Ember Sword has their private test out on their land. Have you seen it? Have you seen this yet? And have you taken a look at how this offering is going to be done?
Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get access to the beta, to the gameplay,
Hmm.
but we have already secured in the very first land sale a few plots, and this is again like in Ember Sword. So every game have unique features. Like in Sandbox, for example, you own the land; it's appreciate in value over time, and you can build on your land. In Ember Sword, for example, you own a city. Yeah, so basically, while you owning a piece of the city, there's smaller town, larger towns here. This, for example, is a
Right.
small town. The big red ones, this is like the big cities, and all the basically the transaction was happen in that city is basically a reward. You get a percentage as an owner. So, and
Hmm.
this is a really interesting reward, but also the cities being traded in the land sale, like 80,000 USDC plus. I think they're even traded much higher now. So yeah, but I really enjoy the how every project build utility around their NFTs. Yeah.
Yeah, these are ones that we've been watching for a while. Obviously, they're the more mature projects out there, but at the same time, I'm starting to just do more research around digital assets, especially around the land aspect of things. And I'm surprised at how many projects are out there that are offering land components within their NFT architecture. It seems to be a growing phenomenon that's really starting to accelerate in the space for sure. So I think we're going to see a lot more of those coming this way. So I think the key here, the big takeaway is obviously you want to have good marketplaces, you need to see some demand, the typical things that you should look in project alignment, meaning the founders and or the devs. Obviously, if it's got a good community behind it, those kind of things that are pretty common sense for you guys. If you're watching our show, you already know these things. But some of those things that we're going to try to start doing is identifying some of these newer projects that are start to go in this direction. Speaking of newer projects, I want to talk about IDOs and low cap tokens. There's a lot of different tokens that have been on the move, game tokens especially, that have been on the move here recently. And what are your thoughts on each of them? Because there's several here. The first one I want to jump to is Steppen, which is the GMT token. A lot of movement here. I'm just going to show you a little bit here on the 1 month of where this project has come from. Back in mid March, this thing was priced out at around 27 cents. Obviously, its high came in right there at around $3, so well over a 10x. When you look at Steppen, and this is one of those metaverse plays that is utilizing kind of a Fitbit approach toward movement and that kind of aspect of it. Have you looked at any of these projects? Your thoughts on some of these?
Yeah, definitely. After the huge boom in the last days, we also had a closer look on it. We didn't know about. I mean, we didn't heard about it yet, but we had our deep research on that, and what we see here is basically again is the power of mobile. Yeah, so because it's a mobile game, or let's say a fit app, and with a reward token. So
Yep.
and this is really interesting because there's so much reach you have on the App Store, on the Apple Store, if you're not considered as a cryptocurrency, because this is still like for some project that cannot get on these stores because they're saying, okay, it's cryptocurrency and so on, but slowly, then these stores also, they open up for play and earn, or in this step and earn in this case. But yeah, huge success. I mean, it's an all-star team and all-star backing behind that, and the model is, yeah, pretty, I wouldn't say brand new. There've been kind of models, but without cryptocurrency, like geo tracking, and then you know where you walk. But this is first time, really fun and entertaining, and gives you rewards on activities. So this is definitely something to have a look at.
Blockchain brawlers. This was another one that is kind of interesting. The game itself, a little bit out there. I like I like what they're doing, but obviously, when you look at just the movement on the token over the last month, it had that massive run up, and this is one that we've continued to watch because it has started to kind of sustain a little bit. Obviously, right here in mid-March or end of March, the token was trading at 12 cents, and of course, it had a nice high right here. We'll go with that high right there on 69 cents there. Again, project continues to see a lot of activity. Your thoughts on this one? Because this is another one that, when I look at these projects, especially in these newer projects, community seems to always be one of the drivers. I was looking at just their Twitter account. They've grown very quickly. And your thoughts on how games like this, when we see this many of them coming into play, because you've got blockchain brawlers coming into it, you've got Dark Frontiers, which has been around for a little bit, and obviously this is a game starter project, and then you have Cryptopolis also moving here recently. What do you feel like are some of the indicators that are causing these projects to have quick movement?
I think it's just like the games are there, and after you've been live, basically, it's like what is your goal as a project, right? You want to have more partnerships, more audience. You try to get increase your player count. So and it needs that, and especially in these games, they're like fun. They're not like very, I would say, very complex. And then
Right.
it's just a matter of that someone enjoyed a game, and then he passing it on to his friend, the friend of a friend, and then it become like this, I would say, viral. Yeah, and then you will see this huge run on this. Maybe there's a one, let's say, article went viral, or one tweet became super reposted from maybe some people who are basically larger in the space, maybe supporters who talk about the game somewhere, or it shows up in some of the videos, maybe on your show or other show or other people who posting videos, and then it's become like a trend. And then you will have a user base on there finally, and it's pretty interesting to see that a game don't need to necessarily have the best cinematics and all that, like here Cryptopolis. It's a fun game, and also the other projects like blockchain brawlers, yeah, and they give you, a little, let's say, entertainment without spending maybe large amount of money, or like,
Right.
and it's easy to pass on to your friend or maybe play together. So yeah.
Yeah, you just hit on something that I think is one of the factors that is starting to cause some of these projects to spread quickly, and that is the either a lower cost to entry, which creates that virality aspect of it, especially in the gaming community, because most of the gamers to this point have been free to play. Many of these projects, you have to do some sort of exchange to jump into these. So I think the easier it is, if you can remove those barriers, we're going to see a lot more adoption, especially around communities like Gen Z and even millennials that like to go into and explore a lot of these kind of new and upcoming games. So it's going to be interesting to kind of keep those. And there's a lot happening here. This was one that you brought, which was Block Ape Scissors. I was just looking at this. I had not seen this project before. Quick movement a little bit here in the 30-day. Obviously, they've kind of jumped off the floor. And then I was also looking at their Twitter feed, and they had a nice, I was looking at this trailer. I was kind of interested. You know a little bit more about this one. Tell me about this project.
Yeah, it's basically started with a very simple game that you basically play rock, paper, scissors, and then this you play with an yeah, with your friend or with random people, and you have a little stake on it, so that have kind of a little bit like a buy-in,
Yeah.
and that's basically the start off for maybe the expansion of the game, so basically they're starting with a mini game, and then now they're building their the apeverse, or however they call it, so I really enjoy these projects. We had an AMA with them, and they're pretty cool people. They're from Australia, and yeah, they love gaming. And we had a gaming session also with them. And yeah, so Block Ape Scissors definitely something to look at. It's a mini game, but they're working. They're very creative and innovative. Same as other projects, same as blockchain brawlers. It's like a very, very interesting, nice idea. How to create fun and I would say simple. Sometimes it don't need to be, let's say, the next Axie Infinity or the next Fortnite. It needs just a little bit creativity
Right.
and fun.
Well, and I mean, if you look at the gaming sectors out there, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of games that are like this. So in the blockchain side, I think we'll continue to see that. Another low cap you brought in. This one's trading in at a market cap of around 10 million, and its 30-day has had also some movement upwards, and that is Dragon Crypto. So a little bit about this project. First of all, why do you think this one is starting to move? And because when you look at their audience in terms of their community, they just hit their 10,000 followers. The likelihood of projects like this to really kind of accelerate into the next level. What are your thoughts? What draws you to this one?
Yeah, so this is basically a mix of NFT gaming and DeFi. So if we see the success of DeFi Kingdom with their
Yep.
yield rewards and their gaming, so basically they gonna come in with a similar model on the DeFi part, but also their crypto dragons. They're like it's a pretty cool game. So and I believe that this team is just started, and they have just also raised some funds basically to continue growing. And I think their roadmap is pretty interesting, and yeah, looking at more to achieve with the team. And it's also they're built on AVAX. This is what really it's also interesting, because AVAX basically provide for games a side chain. So just recently DeFi Kingdom basically built on the side chain of AVAX, and this is will support the game itself, because their native token will be the fee token in the sidechain, and the
Right.
transaction will be bundled and going back to AVAX. So and having that in mind and building based on that, I think it's definitely something to look forward. In my opinion, we will see more of crypto dragons, and yeah, this is like, again, like, we're not looking here at I would say not maybe everybody's type on game. It's a pixel. There's
Right.
like retro games. If you like Fortnite, then maybe these games are not for you. But if you it's having a niche audience. So they're not looking for the broad mass
Yeah.
and so on. And you don't need to necessarily have like millions of players if you have a strong community.
Yeah, if you can get 50,000 really core players that are very avid in it, I mean, that's still a massive community out there. I think we will see a lot of narrow sectors within the gaming industry, especially around crypto and blockchain gaming, starting to grow. So I would agree with you. Another one you brought, which I was interested, we covered Crypto Raiders before. This one, of course, is moving as well. And Crypto Raiders is kind of interesting because they've had some up and downs. Obviously, they're high back here, end of March. They had a $6.71 high. This one was still trading volume-wise, was pretty brisk with a market cap of 24 million right now. When you look at crypto traders and you look at projects like them that are starting to move into the space, what are some of the keystones, I guess, for game developers like crypto traders? Because they've went kind of this 1970s, 1980s look in terms of their design theming versus some of these other projects that are going, all in on much better 2D and 3D graphics. What are your thoughts on kind of the design theme and the approach that they've taken to the market?
I think that they, everybody who loved Zelda and
Yeah,
maybe the Ragnarok or the first Final Fantasies, this is basically the game for you. And this is actually, I would say, my age. I would say the people between 30 and 40, who grow up with these games.
yeah,
And these are basically now matured maybe crypto holders, but also passionate gamers from the past. So getting back these retro vibes, back in the days, and now, but with much advanced technology, but just with still fun features, just in that pixel graphics. I think this is what community attracts, and you don't need to have a fancy videos and trailers. It's a more about fun and and how it's basically is how you call it adduct, yeah, keeps you
addictive.
basically on the game.
Yeah, addictive.
And Yeah, addicted. Sorry. And yeah, and they definitely crypto providers. I think they got just recently they got the funding of 6 million
Mhm.
from two large VC funds. Delphi Digital is one of them, and that's gives them this game. I would say, because you don't need a large developing team. I believe this team is not bigger than maybe 20 people, yeah, and they can develop for years on that game with passion and fun. So there's a basically smaller funds needed to keep these games up and running and maintain on a high level.
I was looking at our CPI on these game tokens on the move. This is our amplification around early April. Obviously, STEPN, GMT, the big movement between, and we looked at both March sentiment and April sentiment. STEPN, of course, had some big moves. Blockchain Brawlers, of course. Dark Frontiers has been in our charts before. This isn't any ranking, but it just shows you kind of the improvement in a short period of time that these games can have. And it seems to, if you're looking at investing some of these low cap gems like this, the key is really keeping an eye on the community, watching what's happening in terms of the release, like you mentioned with Crypto Raiders, watching for those kind of investments and seed injections that really start to create more buzz and opportunity for that game. Because I think with Crypto Raiders, you're right, you're going to see some very interesting strategies, I think, in a short period of time. So interesting ones to watch. This is great. Mirko, great to have you, of course, as always, diving in deep on some of these strategies. So thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Paul. See you next time.
Excellent. All right, so you guys are tuned in over on the podcast right now. Make sure and check out our other podcasts. We also have TechPath Crypto, whether you're on Spotify or iTunes, you can get our audio versions of these shows. But the best place is jumping over here to YouTube. Make sure and like and subscribe to a few videos. This will give you a little bit of insight on some of the stuff when we drop these, like some of the metaverse topics like this one, which is really a good approach toward if you're looking at investing in gaming and metaverse projects. Understanding a strategy is very important. So we do these series with Mirko and his team all the time. So make sure and check back right here. If you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.